Well, hi folks, well into spring now, sort of middle of March, so I keep getting asked a lot of the times, what are your favourite varieties of veg, what do you grow, specifically what are your personal favourites for the varieties of veg you grow. So I'll try and go through it now. So I've got this little planner up of my plot, just trying to illustrate it a bit. As you know, I'm not the most exciting grower, I don't grow too many sort of things out of the ordinary, but I do grow a lot of stuff, just the general basic fare. So I'll try and just explain the varieties I use and which are my favourites. So this is my main bed, if my mouse works up here. So my garlic, that's my own sort of personal strain of garlic, but it all started from the variety called Solent Wight, which for me is a great variety. I can plant it in spring and it gets enough cold. I planted mine this year at the end of February and it should be up in August. I never tend to get any problems with it. I get a good crop, so that's the Solent Wight for the garlic. I'm going to plant a few rows of onions in there this year. I've got a pack of 3 different types of heat-treated onion sets again this year because they were so good last year. And I think they're all much of a muchness, the onion sets, but like I said, the heat-treated ones I find better because they don't go to seed. And this year the Fen Early, which produced them obviously a little bit early, New Fen Globe, and the red ones I'm not too sure of. I think they might actually be Red Baron or something similar to that. So that's what my onions are this year, my normal size eating onions. And then again, I'm growing my shallots from seed rather than from sets. I like to grow the jumbo banana shallots. So they'll come under the name of either jumbo banana shallots, or the actual name is zebrunne, Zebrunne, I think. And actually, I believe they're not actually a true shallot. They're a sort of cross between a shallot and an onion, but they taste like a shallot. They're a giant-sized one, and they store fantastically well, and they're really sweet. Cabbages this year, I'll be growing a few Savoys maybe, and some red cabbage. Now I should have remembered the name, and I wrote it down. I've lost the list, but I think they were called Winter Savoy or something last year. They weren't anything special, and I grew some early Savoys, Savoy Early they were just called, which produced a crop in about August time, but that was far too early because they just kept growing all year and exploded. So anyway, I would go for the late sort of Savoy cabbages. I think there's one called Ormskirk, and there's really winter hardy ones as well. And I've put these little things in there, my lettuce. My favourite lettuce are now called Multigreen, which are like an open lettuce, but they're very crispy and crunchy, and I've never had any pests on them whatsoever. They go absolutely fantastically. You can get Multigreen mix, which is a mix of red and green ones, which once you've sowed them, you can tell as soon as they germinate which are which, because one has a red leaf, one has a green, so you don't end up getting a whole load of one or the other. And then for the icebergs, again, I just use Webb's Wonderful. I always find they're a decent enough lettuce, fine for me. So like I said, nothing too exceptional. Oh, and I do grow a lot of Cos lettuce as well, the little gems, because they're very quick. So little gems, the icebergs, Webb's, and the crinkly ones are the multigreen, yeah. Peas, I'm going to grow a few rows of peas this year. And my favourite for the last few years have been Hurst Greenshaft. They grow about 4 feet tall. I grow them really close together. I mean, I'm talking about, in the books they say put your peas 2 or 3 inches apart in sets of 5. I just chuck armfuls in, and I end up getting like 20 or 30 pound of peas off a 10-foot row. So Hurst Greenshaft, they're just fantastic. Don't seem to have any pests. I would say one thing, if you do get powdery mildew later on in the season, they can be prone to that. So they're good up until about September, because they're just so vigorous. You get about 10 or 11 peas in a pod, and they're at perfect picking height, sort of waist height, so you don't have to bend down and faff about that way. So this is my potatoes. Again, I'm not very excited with my potatoes because I do get blight quite early, so it's fine for the new potatoes because they never get it. So my new potatoes, always the same. They're either Nicola or Shallot. I've tried Rocket and things like that, and Swift, which are purported to be a couple of weeks earlier, but I just found the taste and the texture lacking compared to the French varieties like Nicola and Shallot. I always find those fantastic. Like I said, the main crop, since I've started growing Sarpo Miras, I just won't grow anything else because they're fantastic, I think, for chips and roasts. And like I said, because I get blight, there's just no point in me growing anything else. I've grown King Edwards in the past, but if you get a early blight in July, August time, you can end up tipping your potatoes out, and they're just like marble size, so they're not much use for anything really. So like I said, I just stick to my Sarpos. I might try a few varieties and risk it, a few other varieties, like a King Edward or something like that. But apart from that, just Charlotte Nicola for my new potatoes and the Sarpo Miras for my main crop. That's where the giant pumpkin's growing. I couldn't find a logo for a Mara, so I had to put a pumpkin in. So this is my other 2 beds, long beds. Another row of peas, they'll be Hurst Greenshaft again. Some more onions, same one. Spring onions, I've been growing those in modules and planting those out in clumps. And again, just the boring variety for me, it's called Wight Lisbon. I find that growing them in modules indoors early on and then transplanting them into clumps is the way to go for me, because if I plant them directly outside as seed, they just tend to take until about September to grow. So Wight Lisbon's the one. Kale. Now I love the Reflex one. It's called Reflex. As you can probably see them on some of the other videos, that they just stand up all winter. I did have a problem with the whitefly and aphids this year, so I'm going to grow them in a completely different patch this year and see if I can get away from that. But like I said, they don't seem to have any other pests. The butterflies, the cabbage whites, don't seem to affect them, and they just, like I said, they're hardy all year. And the ones I've got growing still over winter are now sprouting some new really tender leaves, and they'll probably do that for a month until they go to seed. So like I said, you get about a 6-month cropping period and you get stuff over winter, which is also very handy. Leeks, again, not very exciting. I grow Musselburgh, an old favourite, so nothing special. There's loads of different ones out there, but I just find them just to be really reliable, really. So again, nothing exciting, Musselburgh. For the leeks, this is the greenhouse. I don't know why the peppers are giant, but anyway, my tomatoes, again, I just grow Shirley for the big ones. Because I'm growing some daft giant huge ones, I'm not growing any more sort of beefsteak ones because I'll get plenty of rejects from the giant ones. But I like Shirley because they will tolerate a cooler temperature in the greenhouse. They are a greenhouse one, but a cool greenhouse variety, and they will tolerate temperatures quite a lot lower than the other varieties. Likewise, for the cherry tomatoes, I like Gardener's Delight because they're not as sweet as some. I'm not a big fan of the really sweet tomatoes. So Gardener's Delight, they're always an old favourite, a good reliable cropper. And last year I grew a few of those tumbling ones. I think they were just called Tumbling Tomatoes, and I got absolutely hundreds off a plant, and you just leave them be and they just trail everywhere. And they weren't a cherry or a big, they were sort of intermediate size really, so they were in between a big one and a small one, and they were really tasty and they were really reliable. So I'll definitely be growing the old tumbling tomatoes, like hanging basket ones again this year. Cucumbers, there's that many. Some are quite expensive to buy as seeds, but I find there's one called Femme Spot, of all things, which is an all-female variety, which is always quite reliable. There's also Carmen, which is what a lot of people use for show. There's Telegraph and things like that, but Femme Spot for me. And then there's the little mini ones. I think one was called Lunchbox, which grow about 6 inches long, and they're ideal, so you're not overwhelmed by loads of giant cucumbers. My carrots, I use the same carrots for eating as I do for the shows, and they're just sweet candle, absolutely fantastic variety. The sweetest candle you can imagine, and they grow, they'll stay over winter in the ground sometimes if we don't get a really wet or cold winter, and so you can be pulling them up till after Christmas, no problem. But like I said, sweet candle are the sweetest by a mile for me. Absolutely fantastic. And then what's that? Gooseberries. I'm not sure of the varieties of my gooseberries. I know I did get a gooseberry bush given off my mate. It was one of the dessert ones with the red fruit, and it's the sourest bloody gooseberry I've ever eaten. No matter how long you leave it to ripen, till they're nearly mushy, they're so soft. They're absolutely sour as anything. They'll take all the enamel off your teeth. So I've no idea what they are, but I certainly wouldn't buy them. But if I could tell you the variety, I'd ask you to avoid them. Rhubarb, same again, they've been in for years, I haven't got a clue. I think one was called Red Ruby or something. That was a really red variety, that was a really sweet variety. But they'll all be just the basic sort of types. And then in the polytunnel, courgettes, I grow my courgettes in the polytunnel, and the ones I always grow are called Defender. Fantastic variety. They just grow so well in the polytunnel, and they probably go really well outside, but I can get almost 40 or 50 courgettes off a plant in a season without any problem whatsoever. And outside, they should be just as good, I would imagine, if you put them in a sheltered spot. My French beans, I only grow them in, like I said again, in the polytunnel, because it's too windy really for me to grow them outside. Any climbing ones anyway, and the ones I use are called Cobra. Now, if anyone's ever grown those, they'll know how good they are. Everyone will say how good they are. They're so prolific. But if you want to grow the dwarf ones outside, I think the varieties are called tender crop, or anything with like a Kenyan suffix to them, like the Kenyan safari beans, the little dwarf ones. So that's what you want, the sort of string beans, I think they call them. And then finally, peppers. I'll put a few peppers in now and again. And my favourite now are the ones called Oxhorn, which are sort of long tapered ones. They grow maybe 20 on a plant, and they're quite big plants, but they like I said, they just grow really big ones, and it's the ones that they use in Spanish cookery for tapas and things, but you can also eat them raw, like you can, all the other peppers. And then the general normal shaped pepper, sweet pepper, is Californian Wonder. That's generally the sort of go-to one. So like I said, I don't grow anything exceptional. I don't actually grow things like cauliflowers and stuff and squashes. I don't grow a lot of exciting stuff, but they're the main varieties I grow. And a lot of these will be called, what they call in the seed catalogues, RHS AGM, which means that the Royal Horticultural Society in the UK has given them an award of garden merit. So they've grown them in trials, tested them for vigour and pest disease and cropability and taste and quality and stuff. And if they rate highly in all those sort of criteria, they'll give those the RHS AGM. So if you're looking for anything in a seed catalogue and it has that seal of approval, RHS AGM, you can't really go far wrong, because, like I said, they're a tried and tested variety, and they seem to do well in all aspects of the growing. So anyway, that's about it, folks. Like I said, a lot of people were asking me which varieties I use, so I hope that helps with a few people. Probably people won't understand my accent, some of the American watchers, but I might actually write it down if I can be bothered. So that's about it, folks. Just the varieties and stuff I grow and why I grow them. See you later.